This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
So the Lions are the betting odds favorite to do something, and it may not be what you think it is.
As opposed to do nothing?
Sure, we'll say that.
I'm taking the field.
Well, I'll get into what it actually is in a little bit here. We're also going to talk about the Pistons today a little bit, and their recent stretch of games, along with what we think they're going to do to close out the season. But this is the Fan Forward by
Is it possible what Troy's doing could be pretty wise, man?
I see what you did there. This is the Fan Forward by Fans.
For fans.
You can follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. We are brought to you by Detroit Sports Podcast at Detroit Podcast is where they are on Twitter. This is episode number 194. I'm your host, Nick, and my co-host over on the other side is Andrew.
What's good?
We're going to have some fun with this one.
Are we actually facing each other in real life?
Wait, what? No.
I said, are we actually facing each other in real life? Like, where we're positioned, are we actually facing each other?
I have no idea. I guess technically, because I am facing in the direction of your house. So we used to record this show every single week locally. Like, Andrew used to come over to my house every single week.
I'm not facing the direction of your house. I'm facing west.
Well, you're the asshole then. We used to stare
so you're
at each other
talking to my
face
back.
face. Yeah, exactly. That sounds about right. We used to look at each other face to face and do the show, and if I needed to reach across the table and slap him, I could. Well, now I have to. I can only do that virtually.
And if I need to reach across the table and hand you a beer, I could.
That is the one thing I will say I miss about the shows together. You know, obviously during COVID, we had to separate. You know, we couldn't sit across from each other during COVID because we weren't allowed out of our house. And it just kind of stayed that way. It's just because of ease and, whatever. But eventually maybe we'll be back in a makeshift studio of some sort or a real studio of some sort. Who knows? We'll find out eventually. But like I said, we are going to be talking about the Lions. There are a couple news pieces that have come out today or over the last couple of days regarding them or that involve them. And then we're also going to touch on the Pistons. Bear with me today. I am kind of nursing a little bit of a health something, I guess you could say. That's actually why we missed last week. I'm still trying to kick it here, but I'm going to do my best. So, but do you want to kick it off with the Pistons or do you want to start with the Lions this week? I feel like we switch it up from week to week, but I'm going to let you take the captain's chair for deciding what we do.
Let's kick it off with the Pistons. I feel like we'll get through them pretty quick.
Okay, Pistons works for me. So, last time at the time on our last recording, on our last episode, we had talked about what we wanted the Pistons to do the rest of the way. And that was pretty much what they did towards the end of last year, where it was compete while still losing games. Or was that the year that they tanked? That was the year they tanked for Cade, wasn't it?
They did. Well, they also did. Well, the year they tanked for Cade and last year, they were still competing and losing games. Like, it was still a thing. But they started winning games post trade deadline.
Yes, and over the last few games, that's kind of exactly what they've done. Which is to my surprise, because it's largely been with guys who, one of which I've never heard of. I'm going to throw that out there.
I don't think Dwayne Casey has either. James Edwards has a quote. He said, Casey said he's really impressed with Eugene, and doesn't say his last name and how hard he's played. And then I quote from Dwayne Casey, I can't even pronounce his last name. That's a Dwayne Casey quote.
But I mean, looking at the box scores, they lost by 2 to the Wizards.
Yep.
They lost by 6 to the Blazers. Going back a little bit further, they did get blown out by the Cavs. They lost by...
It's really been the last 2 games. It's where we've seen the biggest turnaround so far, at least. And it's kind of coincided with Jaden Ivey.
They lost by 2 to the Bulls, which that was the Jaden Ivey game where he called the timeout on the out-of-bounds play, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've largely been competitive. and keeping games close but not winning, which is quite literally exactly what we asked them to do on our last episode. And they've been doing that. And it's kind of surprising. I can't say that the defense has been any good because it still isn't. But they're showing some effort. And part of it, I feel like, is because some of these guys are playing for their jobs. You know, I'm pretty sure Hamidou Diallo is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, and he's stepped up his game.
Yeah.
You know, there's a big one right there. And some of these other guys are playing for jobs maybe elsewhere. You know, I saw someone on Twitter the other day mention something about how, you know, for a bunch of people who are unhappy with the way or who want this team to compete next year, but also don't want to make changes on the roster, you can't have it both ways. I can't remember who it was that said this, but, you know, it kind of made me think a little bit. Because
it sounds like a James Edwards quote.
It wasn't James Edwards. It wasn't somebody that I know of as a big name out there. But, you know, because that kind of makes sense. This is a team that is very flawed, is in a serious it has a serious lack of talent. And a lot of people want to bring back a lot of these guys that are kind of fringe rotation guys or rotation guys. But how is that going to change the makeup of this team, and how is that going to create creating wins?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like, we have a lot of young guys on this roster, and we said this last year too. They're not all going to be here when we're ready to compete, and we just saw the first one go a few weeks ago in Sadiq Bey, and that was honestly a guy at this point last year. A lot of us were talking about, like, yeah, he's one of your cornerstone pieces. So. But by the time he left, it wasn't as surprising of a move given how he'd been playing. But you're 100% right.
I'm not necessarily looking at guys like, you know, like the Sadiq Beys. Granted, he ended up falling into this, but this was actually after the Sadiq Bey trade too. So he's actually referring to some of these other guys like Killian Hayes, like Hamidou Diallo, Alec Burks, Isaiah Stewart. You know, some of these other guys, Isaiah Livers, some of these other guys who may or may not be back next year. I think Stewart's back because of his contract situation, but some of the rest of these guys, Rodney Magruder's another one. Some of the rest of these guys, they may not be back next year because of their contract situations and whether or not the Pistons want to bring them back. So, and it's not like the Pistons bench unit. So Isaiah Livers does have a club option for next year. Whether or not the Pistons exercise that obviously is up to them. But
Livers has quietly been probably the best wing defender on the team. That's not saying a lot, but
I was going to say it's not saying much.
I do have a Livers stat, by the way. You just reminded
Let's
me.
Hear it. We don't get those often.
It's not so much of a stat as like but so this is actually something that was retweeted by James Edwards. I'm not familiar with the publication that put this out, but they're called LG Hoops. But they basically
sure it's not Legion Hoops.
No, that's what I thought it was at first, and I clicked on it. It wasn't Legion Hoops.
Okay.
But they tweeted out a stat: the top 10 defensive players by defensive field goal percentage. This is a list of specifically non-traditional bigs is who they're looking at. Number 1 on that list is Draymond. 2 is Jaden McDaniels. 3 is Giannis. 4 is OG. 5 is Isaiah Livers.
It's interesting.
Right?
I'm curious to know because the one big difference between those guys and Isaiah, the rest of the guys in that list and Isaiah Livers, is the rest of those guys in that list are likely guarding the superstar on the other team versus Isaiah
100%.
Livers being in a position where he's coming off the bench. He's probably playing against rotational guys in other teams. So
the only criteria to make this list, it was they had to play at least 30 games a season and at least 15 minutes per game.
Right. So it's, Isaiah Livers is not guarding the Kevin Durant's of the world. He's not guarding the LeBron James of the world, usually, for the most part in the game. Most of his minutes are not spent guarding a superstar. They're spent guarding a rotational player.
And defensive field goal percentage isn't the end-all, be-all of defensive measuring. Like, if someone's guarding Draymond, for example, they're naturally going to force a lower defensive field goal percentage.
Right,
like,
because
someone's guarding Ben
Simmons. Some guys
Simmons.
just can't shoot.
Yeah.
But, again, like, it's... I can see how Isaiah Livers brings value on the defensive side of the ball, but as a team, they're not good defensively, and he's a part of it.
Yeah, 100%.
But again, going back to the conversation of what is this roster going to look like next year, and for a fan base that wants to see this team compete for the playoffs next year and has expectations for them to, how can we expect them to bring back the same team and expect different results? And I can kind of buy into that a little bit. And I'm going to probably sit here and tell you a lot of these guys I don't think should be back. I don't, because I don't think they provide plus value on a winning basketball team. And that's what I expect this team to be next year.
But again, you also don't want to just turn the whole team over in one offseason.
No, but you can.
That's essentially a rebuild.
You can subtract a few pieces from your rotation and add a few pieces that are better.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping the Pistons will do this year. Like, do I think they need to bring back Hamidou Diallo? Honestly, no. He's had some nice games. He's definitely playing for his life here, and he's had some nice games, and he's a nice player. However, largely over his tenure here, he's been not very good.
Yeah.
And Rodney McGruder, essentially,
the best thing I can say about him is he's one of the guys on the roster that consistently brings a high compete level, and that's about it.
Yes. But looking at the rest of the roster, I mean, a lot of these guys just don't fit the mold of what we need as a team. And what we need as a team is guys who can score off the bench, guys who can play positive defense off the bench. Do we want to bring Marvin Bagley back? He's looked nice. Obviously, you re-signed him in the offseason, but that doesn't mean you can't move him. There's options out here for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
But especially considering down low, you are starting to have a logjam there with Jalen Duren, with James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley. I mean, are you really going to have a 3 big rotation? I know Bagley does better at the 4, but then what do you do with Bojan Bogdanovic? So you're starting to you have a logjam developing here, but it's not a situation where the guys that are filling up those the logs that are filling up that logjam are not high value ones.
Yeah,
not necessarily high value ones, I should say. Some of them maybe, and also Isaiah Stewart's another name in that list.
You got to get a return for him.
You do, absolutely.
And like we saw with Saddiq Bey, for example. Again, it was a return that at first I wasn't the biggest fan of, but we'll still see how it works out now. Jalen Duren's coming back in our next game, I believe. So we will still see how that 2 big lineup works out. But in general, our defense has actually improved since James Wiseman came on board, and he's just shown to be a better defender than I gave him credit for.
And that's honestly what he was brought in for. We needed some interior presence down low, and granted, he's not going to be the. He's not Rudy Gobert down there, but he's going to bring more value defensively in the paint than what we had. And that's been the case.
And then not to mention on the Saddiq side of things, it came out last week that he was asking for or looking for a DeAndre Hunter type extension. And for those of you unaware, DeAndre Hunter just signed a 4-year, $90 million extension. So we're talking, $22.5 million a year for Saddiq Bey?
I'm sorry, but if Saddiq Bey wants that kind of money, he's got to play like a DeAndre Hunter, and he hasn't been. Like, even at his best, I still think DeAndre Hunter was a better basketball player than Saddiq Bey. And I understand as the years go by, the price goes up. It just kind of the way the market's set. But Saddiq Bey is not a $20 million a year player. I'm sorry, he's not.
Does it make you wonder if Troy Weaver kind of had that knowledge before that trade?
Oh, I absolutely think he had that knowledge before the trade. I absolutely think that, the guys the 3 guys from that draft whose contracts are, I believe, entering into their final year next year. I'm sure that Troy Weaver has been talking to them about, hey, what are your thoughts about the future here? Do you see yourself in a Pistons uniform long term? What's the price? What's the price range that you're looking for? And in the case of Saddiq Bey, him coming out saying, "Yeah, I want $20 million a year," Troy Weaver's probably said, "Okay," and then went and called the Atlanta Hawks. I'm sorry, but Saddiq Bey is just not a $20 million a year player, and he's not. Frankly, I don't even think he's close. Not to mention, his style of play was upsetting teammates. There were a lot of negatives with Saddiq Bey's game, and if he's going to demand that kind of money, it's not working. And at that point, you say bye-bye. And Saddiq Bey may have thrown that number out there because he doesn't want to be a Piston, didn't want us to come out. He could have been saying he doesn't want to be a Piston long-term without actually saying it. But if that's the case, amicable split time to move on. We got value on that return as well, or what supposed value anyways.
Yeah, but this is something that is that was reported by a Hawks publication, which makes me think that this is something that or it was actually Jonathan Givony of ESPN, but a Hawks publication is what actually like shared that information.
If the Hawks sign Sadiq Bey at $20 million a year plus, that is a big ass waste of money if you ask me.
Right.
I loved Sadiq Bey. I was a champion for Sadiq Bey. I wanted to see the guy succeed so badly in a Pistons uniform. However, he ain't even close to a $20 million player.
It's crazy. He went from potentially our best player of that draft class to the first one out.
Yeah. Frankly, he played himself out of it. Like he was not a good basketball player this year. And yes, I know he's been honestly pretty decent with the Atlanta Hawks.
His splits have skyrocketed. Shooting percentages have
well,
gone way
it sure
up.
helps when you have other players in the floor that can also provide offensively to open things up for you. But still, like I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking he's worth $20 million a year. Sorry, I don't.
That's his agent talking.
Yes.
Give me that cut.
What do you think he's worth? What would you pay Sadiq Bey?
If I am a contending basketball team, I would pay him $15 million a year.
Okay. It's a little bit more than I'd probably pay him, but hey.
Because he's already shown, well, I mean, it's still a small sample size, but he's shown he can be effective.
See, I'm a big believer in what have you done for me lately, and lately he's been garbage. So
let's say, like with the Hawks, for example, though, he's shown that he can be effective with actual offensive weapons around him.
He's averaging 12 points a game and 27 minutes a game. So I mean, there is that. It's averaging 49% from the field, 51% from three. It's on good shooting splits, no question. So
if I'm a good team, I'd probably take a chance on him. But if I'm a bad team that's going to be relying on him for an outsized load on the offensive side of the ball, probably wouldn't be throwing 15 mil at someone like Sadiq Bey.
Right. So, but anyways, anything else to add? Okay, let me ask you this before we move on. So what are your thoughts on how the Pistons have played? What are you looking for the rest of the year? I mean, obviously we want to see Dern and Wiseman together. What else do you want to see?
Oh, I mean, up until the last two games, it's been absolute garbage. But the last couple games, and sure, we'll
but
call
I mean,
it the
at
Bulls
this point,
game
don't
too.
we want garbage?
I want what I won the last 2 years, which is competitive basketball, but at this rate, just still lose. But I still want to see players develop.
I want to see him win at least 20 games this year.
I don't care about winning anymore at this point.
I mean, I don't either. But I 20 wins. I don't think you're jumping outside the top three at that point. I think you're probably still one or two.
We're currently one.
I know, but I don't think you're jumping outside of one or two at that point. And so I'm comfortable with that. I don't know. I'd like to see some compete. I guess maybe saying 20 wins, does that really even matter? No. I don't want to see them break the franchise record.
Yeah. they need two. One more win, they would at worst tie it. Two more wins, they're past.
Right.
So they need two more wins to avoid being the worst team in franchise history. And they have 16 games to do it, or 14 games to do it.
Which, I mean, you'd think they'd be able to do that, but you never know.
But no, it's I even though it doesn't show record wise, this team feels a little bit different with Wiseman on board. Because my chief complaint about this team has been effort level, specifically defensively, and that has helped a little bit. Obviously, there's still a long way to go. Jaden Ivey, at least over the last couple games, he is suddenly embracing the role of a floor general. He's seen the floor real well. He has, I believe, 25 assists over the last two games. To who? I have no idea, but 25 assists over the last two games. He's scoring the basketball.
Bagley, some to Wiseman, some to Eugene.
Yeah, I'm just hoping for the rest of the season. I'm just hoping Jaden Ivey can keeps this up and finishes the season strong. I will be very curious to see now that Jalen Duren's coming back how that fit works with him and Wiseman together.
Do you think there's a chance
what that means for Isaiah Stewart? Oh, they said he's planning to come back next game.
Yeah, but I mean, you give him a couple games, and then you shut him down.
I think he's young. I think he'll shut down the veteran. They're going to shut down Bogey.
Right. No question. And
apparently, his Achilles is sore or something. I don't know.
They should shut him down. I mean,
I think they're making things up.
Isn't that what they did with Jeremy Grant?
They did that with Jeremy Grant.
Cade?
Yep.
Oh, his knees bothering him.
So, Yeah, they're going to shut down Bogey. I think you'll see extended run from Ivy. You'll see extended run from Duran, Wiseman. Maybe they shut down Bagley, but maybe they shut down Burks. But for the most part, I think the young guys are going to play.
Do you at all have a problem with Dwayne Casey still being the coach of this team at this point?
No, I mean, there's no point in firing him now. I'm trying to.
I don't know. I wanted him to fire him months ago, but
yeah, it's too late now. That's what I'm saying. It's too little, too late. It'd be pointless now to fire him.
I think it may send a message though that this shit's no longer acceptable.
I think firing in the offseason still sends that message because you already said it's acceptable by getting this bad. By letting it be this bad, you already sent that message that you were okay with it.
I don't think firing him in the offseason sends a message at all. I think that is ceremonious at that point. Because you know exactly what's going to happen when they fire him in the offseason, right? All he's doing is moving his office 3 doors down. He's taking another position inside.
But I think it sends a message because doesn't he still have a year left on his deal?
I don't think it matters because I think what it's going to be is he just moves a few doors down and takes another role within the organization.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying to terminate him before his deal is up. I think either way,
it's not a termination; it's a promotion. Honest to God, I firmly believe that's what they're going to do with Dwayne Casey. Is he's going to be quote?
No, I don't disagree.
Finger quote promoted to another position inside the organization as an advisor, as the BS executive.
Assistant to the regional manager?
No, basically, but the executive senior vice president of basketball and whatever, and talent acquisition. I don't know, but I firmly believe they will be not technically firing him, just moving him. So firing him without firing him. And frankly, I don't think that sends a message to this team and these players. I think that just tells you that mediocrity and a lack of effort is okay because it doesn't get you removed from your job. It just gets you placed for somewhere else. I think they just need to outright chop the axe, like just be done. Prove the point there. This is not acceptable. You have done a really bad job with this team.
And just let Rex Kalamian coach the rest of the way.
I don't care who. You could honest to God go to the you know how they have the random winner to shoot the half court shot. Let's play have the random winner gets to coach the damn basketball team for the night, eh? I don't care. But I think the fact that Dwayne Casey is still coaching this team right now is a problem. I don't think he's. By the way, this is his last year. He is technically not coaching next year.
So his contract ends this year?
Yes. So I don't think it's worth having him stick around for the rest of the year. I don't think it provides any value.
Oh, I have an article from ESPN right here. It says they agreed to a contract extension with Coach Casey through the 23-24 NBA season.
Oh, okay. Well, then they extended him. It hasn't been updated on the site I just looked at. So,
okay.
Either way,
but yeah, Spot Track does not have it. Oh no, Spot Track has in a different section. That's weird.
Oh, it does. Okay, because that's where I was looking. But either way, I don't see a reason to keep him here.
Why did they extend him? I missed that totally. I missed that news. That was almost 2 years ago.
What the hell did he do to deserve an extension?
This is like towards the end of the Cade's rookie year. It looks like May 2021. Actually, no, that would have been before we drafted Cade. And
they already extended him?
Yeah.
What? That's not how that works. Whatever. As long as this team finishes in the bottom 3, preferably 1 or 2, just because I don't want to have the chance to fall in the draft, I'm fine with whatever they do the rest of the year. I don't care.
We're gonna be 1, and then we're gonna get like the 5th pick.
Can they go down that far? Because I thought you could only move 4 spots down.
Yeah, so that'd be the 5th, 1 to 5, right?
I think. Yeah, I guess technically, yeah. Because probably. Either way, I hope that's not the case. I want to obviously.
Spurs are getting the first pick.
You think Victor Wembanyama's going to San Antonio?
They're giving it a pop, man. It's a parting gift.
See, the thing is though, and here's part of the reason why I'm not sure I entirely believe that. How much longer does Popovich have as a coach in this league?
Oh, it's not that he's going to coach Wemby like to stardom, but it's going to be, a nice bow to the end of Pop's career to have a couple years with Wemby under his tutelage.
I don't know. I'm not sure I quite buy that.
They're not going to let Popovich go out with this San Antonio team.
Why not? Who cares about the San Antonio Spurs? Nobody. Like it's not like it's a big market basketball team. This isn't the LA Lakers or the Boston Celtics, and even them they let rot for a bit. Like I don't see it being as a big market team. But I get it's Popovich, but
I think I legit think it's going to be the Spurs or Houston.
I can see Houston. I can, because that's a big market basketball team,
and Houston's been sitting in the lottery for a while and haven't gotten the first pick yet. So, like top of the lottery for a while.
And the NBA wants Houston to be good so bad.
Yep.
So bad.
Houston's got a big international following too.
They do. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on here. Let's move on over to the Lions. I mentioned in the show opening that the Lions are the betting odds favorite to do something this offseason, and it may not be what you think.
To win the Super Bowl.
They are, I believe, the betting odds favorite to win the NFC North, but that is not what I'm referring to.
Wait, what? Oh, NFC North. I'm sorry.
NFC
Whoa.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was like, whoa. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves here.
I thought I misspoke for a second, but no, the NFC North. That's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is the Lions are the betting odds favorite that dropped today to land Lamar Jackson in the offseason. They're 3-1 odds to land Lamar Jackson this offseason. What's kind of your thoughts on that? Do you want to see the Lions bring in Lamar Jackson?
What's it going to cost?
Well, because of the exclusive rights tag that the Ravens put on Lamar Jackson, the Lions can throw out any offer sheet they want to him, and the Ravens have the opportunity to match it. If they don't match it, it's going to cost 2 first-round picks, which is more, in my opinion, than what the Ravens would get in a trade for Lamar Jackson. So this was smart by them.
Yeah.
It's going to cost 2 first-round picks to get Lamar Jackson at this point.
I'm out.
I'm out if it was only 1 first-round pick. Because I don't think this guy has much of a shoulder left. And this offense...
If I want Lamar Jackson, I'll draft Anthony Richardson.
Sure. You know what? Here's another reason why I'm out. Why are we so quick to move on from Jared Goff?
I think he had probably a career year this last year.
If Jared Goff plays like he did, like if you get last year's Jared Goff this upcoming year, if he plays just like that again, and you have a good defense, this team is competing for a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Jared Goff's performance last year is good enough to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Like, this is my opinion on Jared Goff.
Worst quarterbacks have won it before.
He's turned me around. Like, I'm good sticking with Jared Goff. He's I still want a quarterback in terms of a depth play for quarterback. I still think our backup situation
I don't mind drafting
sucks.
a quarterback in the 3rd round.
And I will also say that, like, let's say next year the really good quarterback comes around. I don't think Jared Goff is a level where it's going to stop me from taking the next guy, the next big name at quarterback. But I'm not going to force a quarterback. No, I am content with Jared Goff under center right now.
As am I. Like, you get Jared Goff if Jared Goff repeats his performance from last year, and you have a good defense, you're competing for a Super Bowl at that point. I'm not saying you're going to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying you are one of the competitors, one of the teams in the conversation, on the graphic, whatever you want to call it, in contention to win a Super Bowl. It was a good enough performance. So why would we move on from that?
Yeah.
To a guy who is now injury prone, may or may not be able to throw the football, may not be able to throw the ball downfield, and may or may not be comfortable running as much as he used to. His body's banged up. I know he's still young, but he's banged up. The lifespan of quarterbacks that play like him is not long.
No.
Look at Tim Tebow, how long his career lasts. Granted, not an MVP caliber, but look at Cam Newton. His career basically ended before
Cam Newton's a
30.
fantastic example.
The lifespan of quarterbacks with that play style is not long. Lamar Jackson was really, really good. But at the price he wants, which is going to cost you upwards of $50 million probably, most of it fully guaranteed, because that's what he wants.
I mean, did you see the contract that Geno got?
Right. And 2 first-round picks? I'll pass. There's not a $20 million a year difference between Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson anymore. I'm sorry, there's not. There's not a $15 million difference between them. In fact, I'll even say there's not a $10 million difference between them. I'd rather stick with the guy we got, who the offense is built around.
Yeah, he's working in the system, so.
And take my chances at this, because if I get a repeat performance of what I got from him last year, not to mention he's a hell of a lot cheaper, and we get to keep our first round picks at that point to bolster the defense, bolster the offense. Yeah, I'll take my chances with that. Jared Goff has proven he can get you to a Super Bowl already. I'd be pretty comfortable saying, give me that Jared Goff, give me the Jared Goff from last year. He can get us to one again. Not by himself, but if you got a good team around him, you got to put a good defense on the field, yeah, he can get you there. Worst quarterbacks have won it before. Sign Trent Dilfer.
Yeah. Sign Trent Dilfer. Yeah, I think I think it's pretty nonsensical. Again, even if you do believe that there is a $20 million difference between Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff, this offense is not
20 mil and 2 first round picks?
This offense is not built around Lamar Jackson. You are going to be neutralizing a lot of the weapons that you acquired on offense if you got Lamar Jackson.
You would.
It just doesn't make as much sense.
No, it doesn't. And frankly, I understand that. You can make the argument of, well, Lamar Jackson's never had this elite tier of an offensive line, or these, have a weapon like Amon-Ra St. Brown or something along the sorts of, or an offense that was top 5 with a lesser quarterback.
You get a guy like Lamar Jackson to make up for not having an elite tier offensive line.
Right. You do. Lamar Jackson's not a pocket passer. An elite offensive line helps a pocket passer.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it helps a running quarterback too, but it also really helps a pocket passer because it keeps the pocket clean. Some of those dirty pockets or those grungy pockets are where Lamar Jackson made his money, because it created an uncomfortable situation for the defense when they started collapsing down. He can step outside, roll out, make a play on his own. If he doesn't have that, maybe he doesn't make that play. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we can win a Super Bowl on Lamar Jackson's arm, because I don't think we can. Even when healthy, I don't think we could. Now, I will say that there is one big positive coming out of this. The Lions mentioning how in they are and going after a quarterback. In the draft, in the offseason.
Are you taking the smokescreen angle?
Mixed with the fact that Vegas is now helping us out with this. The smokescreen effect that this provides is huge.
Yep.
Vegas is helping us create this smokescreen, because if we can force other teams to jump and go get a quarterback from the teams ahead of us, go get Anthony Richardson, jump up to
that's
4,
what we need.
Jump up to 3, jump up to 5, and go get Anthony Richardson.
We need to run on quarterbacks.
Levis, take CJ Stroud, take Bryce Young. All that means is the guys that we really want in this draft, the Jalen Carters, the Will Andersons, they're just going to drop and fall right into our laps. And then the NFL is going to get mad at the Lions once again because we didn't take enough time to make our pick.
He's done it twice now, isn't he?
Yes, and it's awesome. I love it because I hate how long some of these teams take. It's so unnecessarily long. Like, you know who your guy is, I promise.
I mean, it's been an easy pick the last 2 years, too.
Right. But the smokescreen is just playing out perfectly.
Yeah, and right now, the way Anthony Richardson is rising up draft boards, and it's pretty much a given that Bryce Young is going to go in the top 5.
Same with CJ Stroud, and Will Levis has been a hot name in the offseason as well. I mean, you could very well see 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 5. And if that
you're
happens,
hoping for just 3. Like you're hoping for at least 3.
I'm hoping for 4, because that means one of Jalen Carter or Will Anderson is in our lap.
But like with if 3, you're at least going to get what's his face, Tyree Wilson. Yeah. Which,
yes, I agree with you. Now, that does bring us to another scenario that I've heard about today, this week. The Arizona Cardinals are shopping their 3rd overall pick. Should the Lions be calling?
Depends what's going to cost. Because there are options. Like, I'm not gonna be devastated. Like, if Will Anderson's on the board and at 3, I'm definitely inquiring as to what's going to take to move up. But I'm not selling the farm to move up and get Will Anderson, because there are defensive options that I do like beyond him.
Oh, see, I disagree. I disagree. I think Will Anderson is not only a head above, but a head and shoulders above anybody else in this draft. Especially on the edge.
I'm not saying he's not the best defensive player in this draft.
Rushers in a draft in a long time. You're talking about a generational type talent potentially here. Like Will Anderson is the guy. He is the best player in this draft. He would have been the best player in last year's draft. He would have been the best player in the year prior's draft. These guys don't come around very often. So, yeah, I'm going to sit here and tell you, I'm willing to pay up to move to number 3 if Will Anderson's there. I'm willing to do that if Jalen Carter's there. Granted,
Jalen Carter might fall.
There are reports Jalen Carter is starting to fall because of the legal issues, which, awesome. Now, there's been a lot of people asking, would you take Jalen Carter at 6 if he's there? Knowing the legal issues, knowing the guy who he is, left his teammate to die essentially on the side of the road. He may or may not have known he was that seriously hurt and leading to his death, but he's also a 20-year-old kid who panicked. Let's remember that.
I do think, like, I wish I could be a fly in the wall in the interview room when he interviews with Lions or with any team for that matter. But I'm assuming if the Lions are considering taking him at 6, if he's there and Lions are considering that means he did well enough. So, yeah.
So
I would take him.
If we're going based off of the draft scores, the draft pick scores, the chart, essentially, it would probably cost the Lions' 6th pick.
Obviously.
The Lions' first pick in the second round, so 48, and their 3rd round pick to move up from 6 to 3. And that's a little bit overpaying.
I would do that.
Because you've got a score of 2,200 for the 3rd pick and 1,600 for the 6th
I was assuming you were going to have to part with both your firsts and then probably a high pick next year.
If you did, no. If you did that, you'd be way overpaying.
Yeah.
If you just put your 2 picks together, you'd be overpaying according to this chart. 2,200 to 2,500.
Yeah, if that's the price, I'm doing it.
Now, again, that is according to the chart. Things obviously change on draft day, and when you've got teams competing and there's a bidding war, things may change. But if it didn't require us to put... See, I might even be willing to take both of our first-round picks this year to go get Will Anderson. I might. I think when you have guys like Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, you're talking about players that are game wreckers. You're talking about a situation where you not only have an elite offensive line, but you now also have an elite defensive line. And if you are elite in the trenches, you're going to win a lot of football games. A lot of football games. And it makes up for a lot of deficiencies in your secondary.
But it would, this is a pipe dream, but it'd be really nice if you didn't get rid of your first round pick.
Then you get a corner there.
Yeah. Or an
offensive lineman. Or a linebacker.
Or if Jalen Carter kept sliding, you could package that with another pick.
He ain't going that far. Let's be realistic.
I said if it kept sliding, you package your other first round pick with something else and move up even more.
Yeah, you know what? You could do that. There is that possibility.
Yeah.
Going off of the trade chart here.
That would be like
to go from,
that'd be like a wet dream type of scenario. Like that doesn't happen. That's draft day. Kevin Costner draft day.
It is to go from 18 to 10. Let's say he drops all the way to 10. You could package your other second round pick with 18. And you'd be
I'm good with no second round pick if that meant I landed Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. You could
yeah.
Second round picks be damned.
And you could always trade back into the second round. I mean, granted, again, this is pipe dream, this is video game type stuff, but
I'm not sure it's even working in a video game. They don't take character issues into account.
Oh, they don't. That is true. They don't.
Especially if we're talking Madden.
Right.
Madden doesn't even take skills into account. They just...
Right. Madden's something else. But, I would, to answer the question of would you take Jalen Carter at 6 if you're sitting there and he falls into your lap? Yes, I'd run up to the podium. Would I trade up to go get Will Anderson? Yeah, I would. For the right price, I would.
Yeah, if it's the price that you mentioned from that board, then I would do that.
Oh, absolutely. Now the other question is, and this is going to kind of begin, now that the combine is come and gone, we're able to start talking draft talk. We're able to start talking free agency talk. Free agency starts pretty soon here. There's a couple of key guys in free agency that the Lions could look at. and I'm curious. Do you want to do a player draft profile like we did for the NBA?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. Obviously, of guys the Lions
Today?
are looking at. No, not today.
Well, I say I got to prep.
Yeah, no, not today. We take a couple of guys each week and go through. It'd be a little bit tougher because we have 2 picks to go after.
That makes it more fun.
It does. It broadens the spectrum a little bit. But there is one other option that has become a popular option for the Lions at 6.
Yeah.
And it's become even more popular after one of these guys' performance at the Combine. And that's taking a quarterback.
Right back at it. Jesus.
That's taking a quarterback at number 6 overall, whether that be Bryce Young, who measured up at 5'10" and 1/8 of an inch, which is a little bit shorter than what people were concerned about. They said 5'10" and a half. Well, he's even shorter than that. Anthony Richardson, who, athletically speaking, had a fantastic combine. Did you see his out routes, though?
Yeah, missed him.
Not pretty. Did not look good. I saw the video of that. It was really funny because I saw the video of his out routes and I went, ooh, God, he's gonna get ripped at the Combine. Very next tweet, Anthony Richardson is so good. His Combine is amazing. I'm like, wait, what?
Well, he did run a 4.40.
He did. It was the most Jekyll and Hyde.
Did he set the vertical jump record too?
He did set the quarterback vertical jump record. Yes. So obviously the guy, and that's not surprising to me.
Why do you even need to be that gifted vertically as a quarterback?
Jumping over the line into the end zone, really the only thing I can think of.
Nowadays, it's more about getting pushed by your old lineman into the line.
But those things are less surprising to me. Because we knew the guy was extremely athletically gifted. We knew that going into the Combine. We know that coming out of the Combine. We may not have known he was this athletically gifted.
Yeah.
But I still have question marks where, can this guy hit his receivers?
Yeah.
And we saw that in the out route drill. We saw that in some drills.
Yeah. And it's not like our route's not like the easiest route to hit, but it's not a hard route.
There is not a single quarterback in the NFL that shouldn't be able to hit that route.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's a
like
fairly common
9
route.
times out of 10.
Yeah.
It wasn't a deep out. It was a medium out, about 10 yards. You should be able to hit that every time. Unguarded. Receiver wasn't in coverage or wasn't being covered. You got to hit that every time.
We hit those in the on the field all the time.
We do. I remember going out to the high school field and throwing some outs and hitting those.
Yeah.
Fun times. We got to do that again.
We probably wouldn't be throwing as deep as Anthony Richardson.
No. Now that we're old, I'm curious to see how that would look.
Oh, I saw a fun stat. It wasn't a stat that I saw, just something I kind of discovered. Do you realize that we are older than every single player on this Lions roster?
Shut up.
Yep, there is not a single player on this roster that's older than us.
Currently under contract?
Currently under contract.
How old's Jared Goff?
Not 30.
How old's the long snapper?
Not 30.
No way. There's no way. There's no way.
You would be the dad of the group if you got on the Lions roster.
Get out of here.
It'd be Papa's home.
That is something else.
You'd be the Udonis Haslam of the Lions roster.
Is Nate Sudfeld still under contract?
Yeah, but I also think he's younger than us.
He's 29.
Yep.
There are a couple guys that Taylor Decker's also 29.
But he was born not in the same month we were.
Nate Sudfeld. I gotta look up.
He's late 93. He's late 93.
Who?
I'm looking at it. Nate Sudfeld.
Damn it. Taylor Decker. This is painful.
This is great podcasting, by the way.
Taylor Decker's also younger than us. This sucks. Oh man, that is it. That is just a painful realization.
I'm telling you, you'd be the Udonis Haslam with the Lions locker room. That's what
I go out for 30 seconds, punch a dude, get kicked out of the game. I did my part. Oh man, that's oh, that hurts.
Right. team dinners, you eat first because you're the eldest.
Right. Age before beauty. Come on, old man, hop in line.
They'd let you take it a little bit easier on the drills on
I'm
account
older
of
than
your
the
age.
damn kicker. I don't even know who the kicker is.
Me neither.
I don't think we have one. I think the kicker's about to be whoever we draft.
No, it was what's his face that we got.
I thought he was only signed for the rest of the
Oh, was he?
year.
Badgley. That's what I'm thinking of. Mike Badgley.
Excuse me. Thought he was only signed for the rest of the year.
Oh, I don't
Could be
know.
wrong on that, but
He did well enough where I'd be okay keeping him. I mean, he missed some
I would
kicks,
like the
but-
Lions to draft a kicker. I'd like the Lions to. He's only
Whoa.
27. I'd like the Lions to go after what's his face from Michigan in like the 6th or 7th round.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, Jake Moody. That's who it is. The thoughts going back to the conversation because we went way off the rails.
Ooh, yeah, we did.
What are your thoughts on the Lions taking a quarterback at 6? Obviously,
No.
Anthony Richardson had a huge
Again.
combine. Bryce Young is a gamer. He's a game changer. CJ Stroud had a great combine, looked like a game changer.
We just have more needs on this roster than quarterback. Again, I don't mind taking a quarterback, like you said, like maybe in the 3rd round. But in the context of where we're picking and who could be on the board, I am not using that pick on a quarterback. There's too many potential game changers on the defensive side of the football to use that pick on a position that for now you're kind of set in.
I don't disagree. Like if Will Anderson and Jalen Carter are both off the board, Tyree Wilson's off the board, and CJ Stroud, Bryce Young
I'm trading back
is in my lap.
because there's going to be some teams that are going to pay up for a quarterback.
I agree with you. I prefer to trade back, but if the deal is not there, it's tough, man. Like you are looking at potential game changers in Bryce Young. But I will say, if you do draft one of these guys, do not expect to make the playoffs for a couple of years. We are setting our timeline back a bit, and that's kind of the biggest reason why I don't want a quarterback at 6 or in the first round, because I don't. Our windows now, our offensive line is elite now, and it's tough to keep elite offensive linemen long term because it ain't cheap. Our defensive line has an opportunity to take a step up now. So it's not going to get any easier to keep things together. Our window of opportunity to win is now just opening. So I'd like to not waste part of that opportunity on something that will help me 3 years from now.
Yeah.
And only really help me 3 years from now. I want pieces that will help me and help me in a big way now. I'd like to take this offensive line or defensive line from good to elite with this draft.
Yeah.
I'd like to bolster the linebacker core. I'd like to bolster the secondary. I know a lot of people have mocked guys like Christian Gonzalez to the Lions at 6. I don't want a corner at 6. I'm okay with taking them at like 9 or 10.
Yeah, I don't want him at 6 though.
But these are holes that I think are much more glaring than quarterback, and are holes that, if filled through the draft early, will help put the Lions in position to win football games now, because they can produce now. So no, I don't necessarily want a quarterback at 6. I don't. I would much rather Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson, and if not one of those 3, I'd much rather trade back. And even then, I'd still like to go after somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe you do go, if you trade back to 9, maybe you look at Christian Gonzalez then. Maybe you look at Brian Breesy. Maybe you look at some of the other prospects on the D-line at those spots.
Yeah, I mean, I am completely lockstep with what you're saying there. I do think that teams will be willing to pay up at 6 if there's a run on defensive players in the top 5, and you have someone like Anthony Richardson still sitting there at 6. I definitely do still. Think teams will pay up.
I do too. Like I think there's definitely going to be if you have CJ Stroud available at 6, there's going to be teams that are calling to come move up and get that guy. No question about it. Yeah. Having high level quarterbacks on the board when you're drafting and you don't need a quarterback is a very powerful leverage to have.
Yep.
And the Lions can take advantage of that. And I believe Brad Holmes can take advantage of that. So this week kind of like I said, kind of begins our offseason talk for the Lions, where we start to look at the draft. We start doing mock drafts. We look at mock drafts. We talk about them. We look at free agency. This is honestly the fun part of the offseason.
And I think it's a really fun part this season specifically because of the fact that we have an early in the draft pick and like a mid first round pick.
And we're good.
And just the breadth of positions that we could potentially go. Like we're in a spot right now where there's a lot of ways we can go with this.
Normally when we're taking this high, we're not good.
Yeah.
We're good. So we're looking to find the pieces to plug the holes that we do have to take this team from good to great.
Mm-hmm.
And they have that opportunity this offseason. That's why this offseason is so fun, but also so important. Because it could go really, really good, or it could go really, really bad.
Yeah.
And you don't want the latter. So, lots to be excited about for the Lions going into this offseason. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the news that comes out about the Lions' 6th pick, the Cardinals' 3rd pick. Where do you guys move in the mocks? Does Jalen Carter slide? I just can't wait to hear that draft day sound and the Lions on the board racing to get their pick out yet again.
We have a draft day party?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Don't we usually?
We haven't in the last few years. No. We used to broadcast live on the draft.
That's right. We did used to broadcast live in the draft. That's right. Well, we'll see. Depending on, what's going on, maybe we can make something happen. But anything else to add before we close out?
Draft day bourbon tasting.
I'm in. Done. Signed, deal, delivered. That isn't a call for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. This has been the Fan Reporters by fans.
For fans.
You can follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast at Detroit Podcast, where you can find them. We will see you guys next week. Enjoy your week and weekends. Have a good one. Peace out.
Peace.